Okay, here we go. So what do we have? We have, of course, with Healy, not just one device. We have the Healy, the Mac Healy, the Healy coil, the high wave. We have information field analyzers. So we have a whole ecosystem of things that actually work together in harmony if you use it in the right way. So let's discover also the new high wave dimension, because this is also one topic in this presentation. So why so many technologies? So that's the question. I mean, we know we are always using different technologies for different things, but why do we actually have all those different technologies, and how do they work? So, of course, health is multidimensional. So it's not like, okay, you have one thing, it solves all problems. So you have different levels where you actually can make a change in your holistic health. And of course, do you ask yourself whether you would eat or sleep well or get some exercise? No, I mean, you need all of those things. You need to sleep well, you need to eat well, and you need to get some exercise to move around, to actually get your body engaged. And true health is really holistic. So it's not like one pill for pain. It's really all the elements in life need to work together properly and are and should be in balance, that you are truly holistically healthy. And Healy exactly works also this way. So the Healy ecosystem is built up of current, it's built up of magnetic fields, of information, and many other things that we will see later. And as you can see on the right side, so you have movement, you have nutrition, you have rest, and you have current, you have information, and you have magnetic fields. So all three of them are definitely important. So, of course, everything starts with Marcus and Marcus' vision, of course, because the ecosystem, all Healy products are designed not by a salesman, but by a philosopher. So by someone that actually has a vision, and a positive vision for the world, and not only a vision for himself. And yeah, he built the whole Healy system as an ecosystem for transformation. So it's not about, yeah, do one thing and then it solves one single problem. No, it's like, okay, you get to know at the end of the day yourself, and by getting to know yourself and working with yourself on your challenges, then you truly transform in the best version of yourself. And that's basically what the Healy ecosystem should work as a catalyst, so that it actually is much faster than it would be, or even some things even won't happen if you don't have the right direction and the right push in the right direction. And of course, you need to combine a few things to make such things happen. So Marcus has a background in physics, is a visionary, and he's a thinker. So he really deeply thinks about things in detail, uh, constantly, and then comes up with a vision and brings it together with science, and that actually makes up the Healy ecosystem. So Healy is much more than a product line. It's basically resonance with reality. So you have at the end of the day some devices, apps that actually reflect reality and your resonance with reality. So in other words, what actually counts right now. And that's what information field analysis is. It actually tells you what is important right now, what you need right now, or what you, from a deeper spirit within, actually want. And I always tell the story that I was on a Time River World, I think 10 years ago, maybe even longer. And there was one therapist, and he made a long presentation about how he uses the Time River system, which is different modules that are all, let's say, working solely. So some for homeopathy, some for meridians, aura analysis, and so on. Um, and you would think that, if I'm a homeopath, I use the homeolog module. But he concluded in his presentation on this time river world that he uses all those modules together for one patient. So he basically addresses the issues or the topic that is actually challenging his client from different angles. And those modules make it possible. And for Healy World, he basically built the same system. We built a system that actually is strong if you use one part, but is even stronger if you use all the parts. So let's go to the Healy ecosystem. So the 5 levels of the Healy ecosystem. So first of all, we have Healy. Everyone knows Healy and everyone knows individualized microcurrent frequencies. And we have individualized microcurrent frequency technology. So it's basically the analysis of the right frequency at the right time and basically the right frequency combinations which make up different programs. And what is it? So what do? We send on the microampere level current through the body. And what are we doing is we are basically following the natural bioelectrical path of the organism. So this is of course designed to boost your holistic health on the electrical level. And as you can see in this concept, and those graphics are just, or these illustrations are just concepts, it's not a physically correct illustration of microcurrent. So the concept is that you basically have here in this case bracelets, and there's current going through those bracelets, and this is basically going through your upper body. And there you also have the strongest effect or intensity of the current, and the far away you go from the let's say upper body, the less the current intensity basically is. Now is the question, what does it do? So it boosts ATP production, as you know from this study. We know that it stimulates self-repair, it regulates local electrical fields. And for me and Marcus, it's always, or for Marcus and me, it's always very important. What is the science behind? So does it actually make sense? Who came up with this? And here we have, of course, Robert Becker, and he's, of course, a pioneer in bioelectrical medicine. So he's known for his regeneration, work on regeneration and the role of electrical current in healing. So he's also the author of the book, The Body Electric. And we have, of course, Nordenström, Björn Nordenström, who's a Swedish radiologist and a former chairman of the Nobel Committee. So he developed the theory of biologically closed electrical circuits, showing that the body has its own electrical self-regulation system. So this electrical current that's going through our body. So when I move my arm, there's electrical current that actually stimulates my muscle to actually make the movement possible. But this whole system that we have of electrical fields, like for example, the heart. So I had once in my study, I had a course which was magnetism in medicine. And there I went to institute, and there they had a gradiometer which was cooled by liquid nitrogen, so which was like big as a car, and this was basically placed in front of the heart, and then you could measure the magnetic field of the heart, and you could actually see the ECG of the heart. So there's so much current going through your heart that you can measure it and can measure it as a magnetic field. And that's true for the whole body. So there's lots of current going through the body, and this whole system, of course, works together. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to live. And we have Michael Levine. So he's a biologist at the Tufts University. And his research shows that bioelectrical networks in tissues control regeneration, development, and autonomic memory. So another very good work on how does our body actually work on the electrical level. Now let's go to the next one, and that's high frequency carrier wave technology, like we have with the high wave now. So Here we have a modulated carrier wave application. So we have a carrier wave which is modulated with a certain frequency, which Healy basically generates. So the usual Healy programs, like IMF programs, like Pure or Care from the Gold Cycle, for example, there are frequencies generated, and those frequencies are modulated onto the 5 megahertz, or in this case, the 4.97 megahertz carrier wave. And this enables, of course, a whole body penetration. So you actually can deliver this with almost the same intensity in the whole body. And of course, this is designed to boost your holistic health on the electromagnetic field level. So there's a field generated in the whole body, which basically carries the frequencies everywhere. Now, reaching the whole body means, of course, we can support energy, clarity, well-being, and it's designed to support a harmonious energy flow from head to toe. And of course, what we also can do, we can reach into the cells. So because higher frequencies enable us to go through basically the, let's say, shield of the cell, because low frequencies cannot penetrate into the cell. And here, of course, we have a quantum biologist at the National Institute of Material Science in Japan. He demonstrated that microtubules resonate with megahertz frequency fields and may function as biological information processors. What does that mean? So our let's say, very small structures in the cell. I mean, the cells are pretty small, but in the cell we have microtubules, and those microtubules, they actually resonate with those megahertz frequency fields. And that's, of course, where we can actually make a difference. And we have, of course, Gesink and Meyer, and those Dutch researchers, they basically created a coherence model. And basically identified frequency bands that support the biological order based on the golden ratio harmonics, which means they identified frequencies that actually have a positive influence on our whole system. And this is, of course, also the frequency we use as a carrier wave. Then the next technology is the magnetic field technology from Healy. So here we have a pulsed magnetic field or pulsed magnetic field programs that applied to the body and through space and of course on water. And they are designed to boost your holistic health on the magnetic field level. So how does that work? So magnetic fields are usually penetrating through everything. I mean, there are some materials that basically block magnetic fields, but usually magnetic fields just penetrate through everything. And of course, they are also declining in their intensity. So if you now put your Healy, as shown in the graphics, on your stomach, then of course you have the biggest magnetic field in this region. And then it reduces in magnitude or intensity the farther you get away from it. And the effects, of course, are harmonization of mood and room energy. And of course, we can structure water or inform water. And there, of course, we have Valerie Hunt. And she is a physiologist and professor. And she's known for her pioneering research on the human biofield and electromagnetic fields around the body. So we know that we create a magnetic field, as I just mentioned, with the heart. You can also measure it because it's so big. And of course, it's logic because every where you have a current, there's a magnetic field that's generated, and the other way around. If you have, for example, wire, and there's a magnetic field applied to the wire, then there's current created, like you have with the induction heating for your stove, basically. So you put on your pen, the pen needs to be out of metal, and in the metal, the magnetic field that basically is generated from the oven generates a current, and this current goes through the pen or the metal of the pen and then generates heat. So always if there's a current, there's a magnetic field. If there's a magnetic field, you can induce a current. And we have Michael Persinger, and he's a neuroscientist who studied the effects of magnetic fields on consciousness and mood, and especially using transcranial magnetic stimulation. And last but definitely not least is the NASA PEMF studies. And they basically conducted studies with pulsed magnetic electromagnetic fields to support tissue regeneration and cellular growth in zero gravity condition. So as you know, in space, you don't have so many possibilities. So they searched for a way to basically have positive effects on astronauts. And as we all know, those institutes and they have lots of money and they can do lots of things which normally are not sold to the average person. But with Healy, we're basically using the same technology. And the next one is Healy coil. So there we have magnetic quantum potential technology. So what does that mean? So magnetic potential or quantum potential frequencies, they don't carry energy anymore. It's just an information. So with the Healy coil, you have two magnetic fields that cancel each other out. And what is resulting is basically a vector potential. And this vector potential is basically informing your bioenergetic field. So you are basically incorporating an information, in our case, a frequency information, into the bioenergetic field. And this is, of course, designed to boost your holistic health through the bioenergetic quantum field level. And as most of you most likely already know, our bioenergetic field is quantum entangled with our body. So if we change something in the bioenergetic field, we also have an influence on our body. So that's why we basically can actually, with a single information, which is a frequency, as a vector potential, actually change something in the whole system. And what does it do? So we have the subtle vector fields, and they have effect on the emotional harmony, deep energetic balancing, support field coherence across the whole bioenergetic system. And of course, the science is very exciting in this case because we have Aronov and David Bohm, and they are both physicists who showed that even in the absence of force, so there's no energy, no force, quantum potentials can affect particles. So those quantum potentials we are using to influence the bioenergetic field. And very interesting is Fritz Albert Popp. I mean, Markus already also knew him as he was still alive. And he's a German physicist who discovered biophotons. And those are ultra weak light emissions from the cell. So every cell in your whole body is emitting very, very small light photons, or photons, which is light basically. And which of course indicates that we have a coherent communication in our living systems, in every living system. So, and this coherence, this basically communication between all the cells, between or throughout our whole body, there we are basically imparting proper information, the right frequency to basically boost the coherence of this whole field. And last but definitely not least, information field technology. So there we have pure information and no contact at all. So this works through quantum entanglement. And what are we doing? We're using a quantum noise generator that analyzes in the information field. And of course, this is designed to boost your holistic health through the information field level. So, I mean, it's hard to basically illustrate the information field. So that's the best we came up with. And this should show that actually you have a very distant field which you can influence by quantum entanglement. And how does it work? So you have basically, as we all know, resonance analysis. So you analyze the resonance with certain things in this field. And you have an optimization then, which is harmonization in the information field, guided by your intention. So your intention, so what you actually intend to do, where you actually want to go, that actually makes the difference. And this is basically guiding the right information in your information field. And David Bohm, he developed the concept of the implicate order. And which I also, or which is also in the scientific or science behind of the information field, there's a whole video on this, or part of the video. And he basically described reality as a layered structure where information precedes matter. So as we have also this it from bit, which is like, okay, first you have an information and then the matter follows. And of course, our consciousness and unconsciousness basically reflect on each other. So if you have something, we all know this, you think about something the whole day, you have a challenge and you cannot solve it, then you sleep, then you wake up, and then that's it. That's how I can do it. That's how I can solve it. So basically, our conscious mind basically reflects on our unconscious mind, where we basically connect with our with the collective consciousness again, and then this information that we get out of this collective consciousness, we take back into our conscious mind. So this is basically reflecting on each other all the time. And of course, if we can access such a information field as we do, you can of course find a lot of very useful things. And we have Erwin Laszlo, and he's a systems theorist and philosopher of science. And he promoted the idea of the Akasha field, an information matrix underlying all of reality. And for us, of course, this is the information field. We're basically talking about the same thing. Now, how do all those levels actually work in synergy? So I always imagine it as something that I can feel, and then things that are far away from me. So what I can see and feel is the microcurrent. And then the electromagnetic wave, which is the high wave basically, or the electromagnetic field. You can also, it's a little more subtle, but you can still perceive it. Then you have the magnetic field, which is again more subtle, and magnetic quantum potential, and of course the information field, where you cannot feel anything, but you feel the results. So this is basically how those levels work together. And as I first did this presentation in Munich, I was really inspired by someone who said, okay, that's how the cell membrane works, and that's the cell potential. And then I said, okay, how can we illustrate this? So just an example how you can better perceive how those levels work together. And that's quite easy. So you imagine a cell, and the cell has a cell membrane. And in the cell membrane, there are those valves. So where basically nutrition comes in and toxins go out. And as we know from studies, microcurrent can influence those valves. So they simply work more, faster, better. And then you have the electromagnetic field of the high wave, where you can basically penetrate also into cells and get the right frequency information into the cells, maybe to the mitochondria, and which is the powerhouse, by the way, of the cell. And then you have a magnetic field which can, around the cell, basically improve the perfusion. So you get more nutrition to the cell. And then you have the magnetic quantum potential, where you basically influence the bioenergetic field and the coherent communication between the cells. And then you have the information field, where you can basically influence all the rest. And that's how you can maybe better understand how those levels actually work together. And of course, you wouldn't choose between breathing, sleeping, or loving. You need all of them. And that's actually how Healy works. Everything actually works together in harmony. And every level plays a crucial role. So together, you have then at the end of the day a synergy that actually boosts your holistic health on different levels. So you can address different topics on different levels. And then, of course, you have a synergetic effect. And that's it. Thank you.